What is the biggest what if about your life? I left Southern Ohio after college to take a job in Boston. From that one decision this happened. I found myself, fell in love, got married, got my master's, found my dream job, bought a house and had a baby. What if I never moved to Boston? Another mass soul, EII. What if we said no? When my daughter was 18 months old, my wife and I got a call from our adoption agency asking if we would be interested in adopting a newborn baby boy. His birth mom didn't make an adoption plan yet, but couldn't parent. He was born with a heart defect and we were told that he would require at least one heart surgery. We were told his race, about his heart defect, and his size. That's it. We were nervous about going into it blind and adding another child to our family so soon, but we ultimately said yes. I am thankful for the decision every day, but sometimes wonder what life would be like if we said no instead. You are wonderful people. What if I never find the person I'll spend the rest of my life with? I don't really have a drive or passion for a career or my life other than my love life. I've always been the happiest in a relationship and I just want to be with the person I'll spend the rest of my life with. I don't really care about much else and I know I should but I don't. I wanna love. I've spent so much time being hated and ostracized that I just want to be loved and wanted by someone. What if, 18 years ago, when the surgeon asked if we wanted to put our newborn son through a necessary surgery with a 40% chance of survival, we had said no? I wouldn't be the full-time carer of a severely disabled boy who needs assistance with every aspect of daily living. On the other hand, I wouldn't be greeted every morning with that smile and a request for hugs. And that question, do you love me? With the obvious answer of course I do. You're the best boy in the world. And he is. Terrible day for rain. What if trains had 8 big hairy legs instead of wheels? Would people still ride in them or would they be too grossed out? Would we still need tracks? Would they wear shoes? So many questions. What if I get bad? Who's going to love a sick girl? I have a disease that only progresses and gets worse. It's already left me paralyzed for over a month. What if it happens again and this time the treatments don't work? I'm 28 and I'm scared I'll be alone forever. There's always going to be a better looking, healthy person out there. Why would anyone choose a sick person who would eventually need you to be their caretaker? Because decent people love you no matter what, and they are out there somewhere. What if I just killed myself here and now? Nobody would ever notice. Not even my family would get sad. I wouldn't see tomorrow's weekly frog harvest from Mommy IRL. What if I hadn't been molested as a child? I'm in my 30s now and I've never really had a healthy, functioning relationship. I'm highly uncomfortable with intimacy and although I would like companionship, the thought of having sex with someone makes me shrivel up with fear. I've tried therapy but find it pretty useless. I tend to assume that it's because of my childhood molestation, which is, I think, a fair assumption, and that if it never happened, I would have a healthy, average, confident attitude towards sex and relationships. But who knows? Maybe I'd be like this regardless. What if I had went to bed 3 hours ago instead of reading Reddit in bed? Would I be as tired as I will be when I have to wake up? What ifs are for the boys? Right now I'm 6 months pregnant with the child of my ex, and I have mainly 4. What if I had let him force me to get an abortion? What if we managed to work it out and stayed together? What if I never told him? I found out after we broke up. What if I miscarried now? What if you forgot all the bulls and focused on you and your baby? Congratulations. What if I hadn't mistakenly pulled down half the price tags in the supermarket yesterday, only to have 10 co-workers spend the next 2 days putting them back up? There was this girl I dated in high school. We dated for almost a year and then split up. It was a pretty rough breakup. We didn't really talk for a year despite running in the same circle of friends. In college we reconnected and apologized for both being pretty immature in how we behaved. We reconnected hard and quickly became really good friends. I easily considered her my best friend. All through college we talked about our hopes and dreams. She did the same along with sharing troubles she was having with the guy she ended up marrying, who had a bit of a temper. He was a good guy though. Everyone has their faults. We'd sometimes go a month or 2 without talking but always dropped each other a line on Facebook and caught up. Until a few years ago she sent me a long message saying she is going to cut contact with me because she realized she still had feelings for me. Being a homewrecker is the last thing I'd ever want to be, so I understand her decision, despite how painful it was. True to her word, she hasn't responded to any of my attempts to reach out. She deleted me from Facebook and I eventually deleted her number from my phone. She will always be my what if things had gone differently girl. What if I didn't switch high schools? I repeated voluntarily my freshman year to have a clean start after a year of clinical depression. Ended up meeting some of my closest friends and rediscovering my passion for arts. Now I'm living abroad, while most of my first high school classmates are housewives. Still, what if? I've seen a lot of regret in this section. Unless you're in your dying days, there is still time. Motivational words on a screen won't get you up and going. That's gotta come from within. Just remember that there is still time ahead. Don't waste it looking back. Here and there it's nostalgic to do that, but don't stress about it and hold on forever. That's what I do and I hate it. Don't know how to just let go. Dramatic? I get it. IDK. You'll ever talk to yourselves to hype up for the day to get going? What if I could move on, I guess? What if I had applied to Harvard? What if I had gone for my master's? What if we didn't have the accident that killed my first partner? In grade 9, I went to a different school that was for kids who would get left behind. I went there because one of my grade 8 teachers thought I was retarded. I definitely grew a lot that year and became a much better person. So, what if I had a different teacher in grade 8? What if I had chosen a more useful education? I followed the popular advice at the time and went for something I liked, but unfortunately linguistics, at least here, isn't very useful unless you get a PhD, which is almost impossible to get accepted into because there are so few spots. And due to taking a job I had a bad feeling for, I'm now unemployed and can enjoy being underqualified and overqualified for the same job at the same time. Everyone told me I would make a good teacher, but due to my stubborn streak and insecurities I didn't do that. Now I can't get any more student loans, so I'm not sure if it will even be possible. During my sophomore year of high school there were two girls I liked. Girl A, who I had been friends with for years and we always had this unspoken thing for each other, and girl B, who I had recently met and thought was cool. They both knew I liked them and they both knew that I liked the other two. So girl B invites me over to her house and we kiss, so I'm like, okay, decision made. But girl A was heartbroken by this. Her friends would tell me how much she cried about it. After a couple of months I break up with girl B because she is pretty crazy, but that's a different story. In the meantime girl A had started dating this guy who was, let's just say, not my favorite. It was it that made me realize what a huge mistake I had made, so I told her about it and we flirted for a long time. She would tell me that she loved me and stuff. During this time I wrote a poem for her a day and it got to be like 50 before I stopped. Then one day we kissed and it was incredible, the only time I've ever kissed someone and felt like that. Also I knew she had a boyfriend the whole time, and yes, I know what we did was very crappy even if I didn't like him. Since I was feeling guilty about the kiss I told her boyfriend and he told me to stop talking to her, so I did. Now I'm in my senior year of high school and I just wonder what could have been if I had just picked her from the start. TLDR, I'm bad at picking girls and have a regret. What if my parents hadn't moved to the United States when I was a kid? Like, how different would my life be if I had grown up in Mexico? Would I be the same person at all? Always thought about that too while growing up in the States. Couldn't imagine the sacrifices that my parents have made for my family to come and settle down from a fresh start. Would have been easier for all of us to stay where we were, but it seems that my parents made a better choice for us. What if my mom never forced me to diet when I was 9? I didn't even know I was fat then, and looking back, I wasn't. But Korean beauty standards, I was self-injuring, binge eating, and suicidal within a year because losing weight didn't make my first crush like me and it didn't make other kids nicer to me. Crap lasted 15 years and is still going. I was neglected and abused as a kid before that, but thankfully my memory is so blank that I don't remember the things my sister does. I think the main reason I'm seriously messed up today is the self-image problems starting from the diet. What if my ADHD had been diagnosed when I was a kid? How different could things have been if I had understood what made me so impulsive and scatterbrained? My biological mother was 19 when she got pregnant. My biological dad was 32. She pulled the goalie on him, stopped taking birth control, because she so desperately wanted to be a mother, and perhaps as a way to keep him in the relationship. He was not thrilled about this, to say the least. Despite the turmoil the whole situation caused, she decided to carry the baby to term and give him up for adoption. She was meticulous about the process, selecting a family she thought would raise him well, and they did. After the birth, she spent 3 days in the hospital enjoying being a mom with her baby near, and then gave me away to another family. Her boyfriend left for a few years, but ultimately came back, and their relationship was rocky, and they both drank a lot. They married 8 years later. Eventually, due to years of hard drinking, she died of liver failure about 5 years before I found her entry on Ancestry.com. What if she had an abortion? Side note, before this turns into a thing, I am pro-choice. What if I choose to study in Japan for a semester instead of staying in the US for a guy? Or BTW, the very same guy dumped me 2 weeks before I would have flown out. RIP. That sucks, man. If you're still looking to go abroad and have a degree, look into teaching abroad. Some places pay pretty well. I'm doing that in Japan right now. What if I would have stayed in Arizona instead of moving back? Would Amy and I be married now? Would I have kids? People don't get it when I tell them we broke up because I moved back. I only moved back to finish college. We both agreed to date others. Still, I can't help but wonder. What if I never find my ride or die kinda girl? My life is looking pretty bright right now and I'm finally going where I want to be, but I don't have a girlfriend. I've always craved that feeling of being wanted by someone. What if I could have made better choices when it came to friends? Would I have friends who treated me like a decent human being instead of someone they could talk crap about? Would I be as freaking sad as I am now? What if I won the lottery and started the company I've always wanted to and paid off all my college debt? What if indeed? What if I did frick Madonna? What if I had to be at once with no drama? What if the whole world believed in Obama? What if Bill Clinton had never got head? What if Pac wasn't dead? What if it all was champagne? What if these rappers could actually find their own lane? What if there wasn't the same? What if I did my own thing? What if the world was crazy and we was the only ones sane? What if I had stayed closed and never accepted his invitation to the Discord? I dated him, we broke up, lots of months pass, and he decides to invite me to a Discord server. I've gotten into multiple relationships there, formed amazing bonds, learned new things, faced conflicts, and ended up with him again. I love him now, more than I've ever loved him. Not only this, but I always have friends to play games with and spend a weekend with. They've given me such a new perspective, and I've experienced the feeling of really being needed now. It's taught me to stand strong, and I'm so glad with where I am now. So what if I never took the opportunity? Where would I be? What if I had never left my hometown? I applied to college sort of just because, got into my dream school and did pretty well, got into a fantastic medical school and finished my PhD by 27 years old, just bought a house this January, make 6 figures and have a comfortable life. Had I stayed in my hometown, I have no idea what my life would be like. It's an old textile town in the southern US, no jobs, lots of opioids etc. What if I applied myself in high school? Definitely would have went to OSU and saw the Buckeyes win a championship, and probably have a more active social life. Of my life, what if the delivery guy didn't develop a crush on my mom? Literally, he helped me get my first job where I got to know 2 shitbags that convinced me to start a totally different job that ends up taking me 200 miles away and is my career now. If I would have gotten engaged this year, it might have been even more significant. I'm loving it right now, in all honesty. What if I decide to get real instead and didn't pursue my dreams of being a famous singer and rapper? Over the past few years I've managed to lose over 125 pounds. I've remained a steady weight for the past year and a half where I'm so happy and can do things I never thought I'd be able to, especially not at the size I was. My what if is always what if I never lost the weight and remained that size for the rest of my life? Would my life be considerably shortened? Would I be happy? What struggles would I be facing? I'm glad that it's a what if from the good point of view, but I've always wondered. What if I quit my job? Well, I did it yesterday and I'm sitting on my couch with the dog surfing Reddit. Background: company went through a merger a few years ago, and we had a massacre of employees. They suddenly realized they needed some of us for the technology transfer, so they retained a few of us on contract, including myself. The last few years have been torture, with moron co-workers not wanting to learn the new stuff, and people flat out refusing to do work, which has seriously affected the bottom line. It's completely irrational, but we're a family-owned company and now are ran by the granddaughter who is an idiot. The only people who get promoted are old geezers. Like so old they can't even use Google. Note, this is not an attack on old people, just these ones. So I was given an option a few weeks ago. Come back as a full-time employee or leave, but you get a large severance package. I asked for a promotion to be the manager for our technologies. They said number, so I just quit. Should be interesting how this plays out. When I was younger, my family got a foster child. Her name was Jay and she was 10 months old when we got her. She stayed with us until she was 5. My parents were both in their 40s and didn't want to have to raise another child when their job as parents was already almost done. Over the years, I talked to my family about the situation and asked if I could adopt her once I turned 18. They were all for it, but only asked if it was what I really wanted. They didn't want me to ruin my life by having to raise a child so young. So I was making plans. I got a job working for the Board of Education in my town as an intern. I was preparing for college and saving for a place. Everything seemed to be going well. When I was 17, one night my parents invited over a woman for dinner. They didn't say much about her. After she left, they informed me that she was going to be adopting Jay. My whole world fell apart. That November, I watched my life get signed away from me at the courthouse. I was so hurt that they made this decision without me. I completely understand their reasoning now. But then, I was distraught. Jay is 8 years old now, and I always wonder what life would have been like if they let me adopt her. I fell into a deep depression once I turned 18. And I still struggle daily. I have no contact with Jay, and I only hope that she remembers me. AWW, this makes me really sad. Also, I don't get when their job as parents was already almost done. If there's a child that loves needs you, what difference does it make if you're one age or another? You may not have the energy to go to all the games, or put in all the activities, but you can still provide a home, and structure, and care and food and support. There was this girl at my middle school who very obviously had a crush on me. I wasn't super interested in her, but entertained the idea of dating someone and how cool it would be. This girl would always talk to me, was interested in what I was doing, came to my birthday party, etc. She was also pretty religious, which was fine because at the time I was as well. It's only looking back I realize how sweet she was, but I didn't really care to do anything about it. Anyway, I finally one day in 8th grade decide to ask her to the movie and she's ecstatic. We didn't really discuss what to go see and figured we'd figure out when we get there. So we're at the theater and she says she wants to see High School Musical 3. Now if I'm being honest with myself, I'll admit I kinda wanted to see it too. But I'm a cool middle schooler, so all I'm thinking about is how dumb that movie is. So instead I take her to go see the movie I wanted to see, Max Payne. Nothing like drugs, violence, and PG-13 nudity to make a religious girl uncomfortable. The cherry on top is that I had already seen the movie prior, so I knew exactly what we were getting into. Looking back I realize how selfish and awful of a date that was. She lost interest in me as expected. Now she's been married for quite a few years. So my biggest what if is, what if we saw High School Musical 3 and I actually tried to be good at dating? Would I be married now? I used to play with a band that was starting to do well. A major star was interested in buying one of our songs, but a deal wasn't done in the end. I always wonder what if that song went big. What if I said yes to this girl who asked me to the dance freshman year? She was a family friend who wasn't that attractive. Despite her looks, it just felt weird being asked by a family friend seeing that we were fairly close. After my decline, we didn't talk as much. For no real reason. Our families were out of touch as well. Work transfers and stuff I assume. Run into her when we're age 22 and she just graduated UC Davis. Is a certified veterinarian. Married, incredibly sweet, and insanely hot. I'm very happy for her. But still, what if? How would my life be right now if I chose that path? What if I moved to Wales? Back when I was 5-6 my family were considering going to Wales. They decided to not move, but I imagine that because I was so young my life would be different to now. What if I decided to concentrate on baseball instead of partying and being worried about what was going on that weekend? I mean, I'm happy where I am in life now, but always wonder where my talent would have taken me. What if I never cheated on my first girlfriend? She was an amazing girl, sweet, kind, tolerant, and she had an amazing body. Not the smartest girl I ever met, but driven to be better. We dated for 3 years and I was a dog. It started with a single cheat and by the end I was doing it as much as possible. Now, objectively, I know that if I was happy and satisfied in the relationship I wouldn't have stepped outside of it, but I also know that something inside of me was messed up to not be those things with her. What if that was different? Would we still be together now? 30 years later? Kids? What sort of job would I have now? Where would we live? What friends would I have? I'm very happy in my marriage, job, life, but would I be just as happy if I were not a cheating jerk when I was a teen? What if I saved my dad's life when he was lying with a stroke on the floor by calling her 13 years ago? I'll never know. He freaking died. What if my mom hadn't got remarried to my stepdad? She remarried when I was around 8 years old. He's retired Air Force and we moved around quite a bit, including spending a few years overseas in Europe. He also got me into computers, which jump-started my career in IT and interests in building my own PCs and fixing my own laptops and other hardware, along with getting my associate's degree. Despite not being related by blood, he's been an awesome father figure to me and treats me like I'm his biological kid, and I love him to death. My actual biological dad is an alcoholic who probably hasn't worked a job since I was at least 11-12 years old, that I can remember. Never went to college, never moved out from his parents' house, always screwing up and has had at least a half dozen DUI offenses over the last decade, even more before I was born, but my mom and other family lost count. He stopped paying child support when my mom remarried and before that, with shared custody, would leave me with my grandparents, who are the most awesomely patient and loving people, no joke, and head off to the bar or to hang with his other loser buddies to get drunk. Always makes me wonder where I'd be and what I'd be doing had my mom stayed single or married someone other than my stepdad and I didn't have the experiences I've had. I honestly wouldn't trade it for anything though. What if I didn't get a concussion? My studies suffered, and the mood swings forgetfulness caused by post-concussion syndrome put strain on my relationship at the time, ultimately ending it. I'm in a much better place now than I was before I had my concussion, but I still wonder what would have happened if I simply didn't play hockey that year like I planned. Would I still be with my ex? Would I still be in my home city? Would I have met my current girlfriend? So much changed in my life, so many questions. What if I was made for you and you were made for me? What if this is it? What if it's meant to be? What if I ain't one of them fools just playing some game? What if I just pulled you close? What if I leaned in, and the stars line up and it's our last first kiss? What if one of these days, baby, I'd go and change your name? What if I loved all these what ifs away? If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.